welcome again to another episode of the Love Chat, uncut, unedited, unfiltered. And today, my wonderful guest is my ace boom coon, my bro for a long time, the one and only Romney Sears. If I had an
God bless you. I'm yet just another lay member, just trying to do the work of the Lord from the back pew.
this is why I can't stand him. There will be some
God
sibling
bless you.
rivalry today, okay?
God bless you. She's in the front in the pulpit, and I'm in the back of the church in the back row.
He thinks he's an usher, but he's not. We're not having
No, I don't usher. No, nope, don't have the patience for that.
Yeah, I gave that up a long time ago. It
Right.
was a short shot.
And I used to shout too much to be an usher.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Well,
but I am so honored to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. It's so wonderful to have you. I don't even know what to say. I'm excited about what this conversation is going to turn into, but
Me too. I may not be asked to come back.
you'll be back. I did say uncut, unedited, and unfiltered,
Listen,
right?
and I feel like that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And you know what? And let's be honest, this love chat, a lot of folks think it's about, some big love episode of, oh, Tommy loves Joe. No, it's not. It is about what life should be.
yeah.
And since we are supposed to be loving each other, that's why I think God gave me the name Love Chat. This is a chat. It's about love. And when it really boils down to it, I'm hoping somebody gets freed.
Yo, that is the most important thing to me. Is maybe I can say something that would be the key to unlock the door that you're standing at.
Yeah.
Because I've been through it.
Yes. So today's subject is, this is kind of touchy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. And, some folks that's listening to this won't know me at all. Romney, you know how God deals with me. And
Mm-hmm.
I was asleep. And I kept hearing about my loss. And there are a lot of people that believe that they paid or attributed to my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest, they didn't.
But you couldn't tell them that.
Put it out there. And I know you know what healing in particular that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It will, matter of fact, even something that's present at right now. But that, when I finally figured out, got up and was like, okay, God, what is this? You were the first person that popped in my mind. And I got even more scared, like, oh, no, you playing.
Oh, right. When you told me, I was scared. Like, wait a minute. You don't know my life like this.
Wait a minute. God, Rodney? No, this is trouble.
Right.
Did you know? Well, I guess I shouldn't ask him if he know. He do know. So here we are. So, but before we dive in, let's tell everybody a little bit about you. I can give a little bit. I didn't even touch anything, but you're a minister of music, saying that you're a lay member, but you're not. You're also a counselor, your brother, friend.
Lay member.
Not a lay member. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am, number one, I'm just Romney. So I'm going to be the same Romney that you meet in church will be the same Romney that you get in the grocery store, will be the same Romney that you're going to get at home. One thing I pride myself in is being consistent, because I lived a life that wasn't for a long time, and it's exhausting. So I'm just going to be me. So that's number one. I'm going to be Romney no matter what, which is very, very, very goofy, very sarcastic, quick-witted. Definitely, I'm empathetic, passionate, all of those things. Yes, I am. My profession is I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. absolutely love what I get to do. And I deal with a lot of mental health as well. Love, love, love what I get to do. Um, I don't know. Let's see what else. Um, I sing on the praise team for my church, New Birth Christian Center. Praise God.
You said that with such reservation.
Oh no, I'm excited about that.
Okay.
No, God bless you. At New Birth Christian Center, where my pastor is the Bishop Charles Ware Sr.
Come on, Bishop
and
Ware.
Pastor LaWanda Ware. Praise God. And I absolutely honor and love them, and allow them. I thank God that they allow me to be able to work. So I'm also one of the directors of the arts ministry at our church as well. Teaching dance and flags and mime and stuff like that. Love that. Let's see, what else do I do? I have my own group.
Come on,
group. Called Heart of Worship. Shout out to them. Love them. I'm in another group called Identified. Love them. I think Cree knows a little bit about them.
I know a little bit. I heard about
that. I don't know what else. Like, I just listen. I'm just me. Just me.
We're about to find out who me is.
Oh yeah.
God. I want to kind of go back to something you just said about, you honored that they allow you to work. One of the things I have seen, I don't know Bishop Ware personally, but what my experience with him is through you, to be honest, and through Buddy, of course, mostly through you. I believe that with this subject, as a leader, he has allowed you to work. He met you where you were. That's a fact.
Yes. And
then he allowed you to work in the midst of your loss.
Well, here's the thing. When I joined the church, the church, I remember showing up that Sunday. My intent was never to join. And I've known them since I was a senior in high school, around there. So I know what kind of people they are. And so I would always go visit their church, and they used to always say, like, you're going to be a member. And I'll be like, okay, all right. Because I was, I was a member somewhere else, and I was like, that's where I grew up. So I was always thinking, well, I don't see myself leaving. And, just God would have it that I would take this journey. And so the day that I joined, I remember going to church and I cried through that whole service. I literally sat in the back of the church and cried the entire service. And I remember going out for prayer. And, by that time I stopped crying. I'm a G. I'm good. I ain't crying no more. I was walking back to my seat. And, starting to walk back to my seat. Excuse me. And, and Pastor LaWanda caught me and hugged me as I was walking back to my seat. And then began to answer some questions that I had asked God, but I never told anybody about it. And
that's when
then when she got done, now at that point I turned into, silly putty and just started slipping, and I was on my way down. They was trying to hold me up like, yo, I'm destroyed. And she did it so smooth. And then when she finished, she said, when you're ready, I'll be at the front.
My goodness.
And I was just like, what just happened? And so I ended up joining that particular Sunday. The thing that I love, though, was because I joined and them knowing me prior to any of that, them knowing me for all the years, knowing what my gifts and stuff are, they didn't immediately try to put me to work. One thing she said was, take whatever time you need to sit, rest, and be restored. And that, to me, that along with her saying, this is a safe place, meant all the world to me. Because I've been to other churches, and because people have seen me direct, or they've seen me teach, or they've seen me sing, they immediately throw you in there, not knowing what you just got out of or where you're even at in life. And it's more of what you can do because now you're here and you're great. Like, let's hurry and throw them in. And Like that, what people don't understand, does more damage than good if you didn't
Right.
take time to sit down and talk to whoever the person is. And so I love the fact that they gave me time to just be. And
See,
that's what I needed.
you kind of said something about being thrown into stuff, and I kind of experienced that. You didn't know where I was, or you did know where I was
Mm-hmm.
because you did see it in the spirit, or in some cases, somebody told you
Uh-huh.
part of what they thought of where I was, and you try to throw me in because you're like, oh, she's gonna be an asset to my ministry. But
Right.
how can I be an asset if I'm so broken?
If I'm broken.
I think as and I'm gonna say as a nation, we have a habit of thinking that working will get us through when it really just becomes busy.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's exactly. And so my pastor, what she says is, don't get so busy doing the work of the Lord that you forget the Lord of the work.
Mm.
And that's true. I would be on autopilot because I've grown up in church, worked in ministry almost my whole life. So it's so easy to get into the routine of things
Right,
and even get the high of doing it
right.
instead of actually taking the time and understanding who I'm doing this for and why I'm actually doing it. My
Mhm.
loyalty should not be to people before it is to God.
Right.
And I think for me, that's where I went wrong
Mhm.
in my journey. Was my loyalty was to people more than it was to God. So when
Guilty.
people hurt
Me
me,
too.
or when
Hmm.
people left, or when people would, they're faulted. We're all faulted. So when people couldn't live up to what I needed them to live up, devastated. But that's
Yeah.
because I trusted them before I trusted God.
Right. 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 Now I'm just gonna put, because I said earlier, a lot of people think, oh, you're an asset to, healing, and
Right.
so, because this is me and me and Romney tend to get a little deep sometimes. And if we're not crying, somebody around us is crying. So I got my Kleenex because I just didn't know where this was gonna go.
Listen, I try to heck out the shallow end of the pool. I try to.
So with that, first, thank you. I don't think I've said that enough because there was some time that I was done with everybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't, because people weren't meeting me where I was. I
Mm-hmm.
felt I had given so much. And in the time of my loss, when I needed someone to just say, it's okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel that way, they wanted to put me to work. Or they
Right. Right. Right.
didn't want to, they didn't see, sometimes you can't, when you're in the moment of loss, you can't sometimes verbalize what it is. That you can't vocalize.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You think, oh, she's just being quiet, or now she got an attitude. She don't want to talk to nobody. She don't ever want to go nowhere with nobody.
There are so many, and people don't understand there are so many things behind that. Like
Yeah.
when I joined this particular church, um, I all I did literally, I would go to church, and as soon as it was over, I was in my car and I went home. I didn't
Right.
stay socialize, and the cold part is, again, I've grown. My best friend is the daughter of my pastors.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've grown up with the entire family, like, for years. So it would be, and I've been around, so I knew a lot of people. It would be easy to socialize, but I would go to church as soon as it was over, get in my car and go home. Um, I didn't, it wasn't even them. It was because of what I've been through.
Right.
I just don't trust people. Like I was that damaged to where you're as wonderful as they are, I just don't trust you because I
Mhm.
know what I've been through and I haven't let that go yet.
Right.
And
You
so
you
for
know
me,
there's a possibility of more
hmm
loss. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. And I remember telling them, like, I know that you said this is a safe place. And my heart feels like it is, but my mind says you can't take another hit like you took already.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
it would make it so difficult because I would want to hang around. I would want to be around. I would want them to get to know me, and me to get to know them. But during that time, it was just like, I don't know yet. I've been hurt. I've been damaged a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat in it too long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't trust people like that.
And you know what? I think you're the counselor, so you correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes, people just feel like, I hurt this way, so this is how I deal with it. So this is how you need to deal with it. And they don't realize sometimes trying to make you deal with it the way you think it should be dealt with is not giving them the life raft. First, it's not meeting them where they are. That's the first thing.
It's not. You have to allow somebody to go through their own process.
Right.
Their process is not your process
at all.
So I need to understand. So on the counselor side of things, right? There's this thing that we use called active listening and motivational speaking. Motivational interviewing. And so I have to listen to what you're saying, because I can't give you my plan for that. If that were me, I have to give you your plan or help you discover what your plan is, meeting you where you're at.
Right.
And I think people don't, it could be a couple of different reasons why. Maybe they don't listen. And sometimes if they don't want to listen because in their head, they've already placed you in ministry.
Right.
And so they're trying to speed up your process.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had that happen before too, where it's like, no, that's not what I want to know. I'm not there.
Right.
I don't.
And it's a difficult, I don't think people realize it's a difficult place for you as the person in experiencing the loss to be, because here you are jumping in my face, hey girl, how you doing, mommy? Hey, mom. And inside I'm like, I need you to back up. I can't breathe right now. I can't breathe. Because
or hey, I'm screaming for help because I'm drowning, or I'm being tormented, or I'm desperate. Like, but all you see is what, like, okay, so for instance, for me, there was a period in life in my early 20s, late teens, around that period. I remember I was in a very, very tormented place. And I remember I showed up to church early. I caught the train because I was in the Bay Area, and I caught the train back to make it to service. And I didn't have on regular church clothes. I had on jeans and I think I might have had on a button. And I remember coming in, and I was so desperate for God that particular day, just in that season. I was so desperate that I caught the train home to make it. And I remember one of the mothers coming up and giving me a hug before church started. It was like, hey, how you doing? And then looked at me what I had on and said, oh, are you gonna wear that? And I was like, well, I just got off the train and came straight to church from the train station. And her next response was, oh, well, are you gonna go home and change?
Whoa.
And I remember looking at her, and I told her, if I go home, I'm not coming back. And I didn't mean that I'm not coming back this Sunday. I meant I'm not coming back, period. I'm in a state right now of emergency.
Right.
And desperation. And you can't even see the cry of my soul
and
my spirit past what I have on. I have a problem with that.
And
so, go ahead.
We've become so conditioned, again, as a nation, that we can't see each other.
And that's one feeling that I never, ever forgot. And I vowed that I would never put more emphasis on how somebody looked or what they were dealing with beyond actually praying and understanding what's going on with their soul.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was tormented. I was a season of torment. And because I was so jacked up on the inside, I dressed it up on the outside. So I knew how to come to church, and I had all these different color suits and all kind of stuff. And it was almost like, as long as you look the part, we're good.
Right.
But it was very few people that actually were concerned about, Romney, how are you doing?
Right.
Not what you do for this place, not anything other than literally, how are you doing? Where are you at?
Right.
And you could tell, and I could tell who those people were, because they can ask me, how are you doing? And look at me, and I just burst out into tears.
Right.
Wait a minute, because I knew what they meant when they said, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there were others that, and casual conversation, right? And passing, we're used to saying, hey, how you doing? But not really wanting to know how somebody is doing. It's just what we say.
Right.
Like, that's what we're doing. And ever since then, I'm very careful and cautious when I ask how someone is doing, or better yet, I ask them, how are they feeling? Because that's going to take a little bit more effort to actually think about, like, how are you feeling today? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
literally want to know, how are you feeling today?
Right. Right. It's funny because a lot of people just think, they see us together a lot or something.
Mhm.
And they think, oh, they probably been hanging out forever. Well, we kind of known each other forever, but
We didn't have our own real relationship.
right. Our real relationship, I think, started when we were going through the transition of really finding out who people are.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember times just us looking at each other
Mm-hmm.
and having to look the other way because we was going in. We was finna cry something. It just wasn't. It wasn't right.
Yep.
I remember that. So to be, to be transparent now, oh God, Jesus, my Romney knows this, but a lot of you don't. My dad passed away 5 years ago. This February that passed.
Mm-hmm.
My biological DNA donor passed away 2 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that man had nothing to do with me whatsoever. I can count on one hand how many times I've seen him. And each experience was not good. Neither one of them. But when he passed, it had been so many years since an experience with him. I thought I felt nothing till he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I shut it off. Because we good. We know how to shut that thing off.
Do.
There's a switch in there. Click. But when if we can't get the switch, we just knock out the whole light. Just
yep.
So then, actually, he passed 3 years before. So then, both grandfathers passed. They passed. All of them passed around the same time of the year. Each time, so it was 4 years back to back. But because I knew how to shut it off, that's all I knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had seen. And then it got to the point where I really start listening to God. I really start walking in what I'm supposed to be walking in. I really knew what my purpose was. And it seemed like everything was going to hell all around me because they didn't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
which caused more loss. Because now these people aren't talking to me. Now these people, the family that I do know, no longer calls me family. The friends that I grew up with, they're no longer friends. Now I have more loss on top of the loss.
Uh-huh.
And my assistant pastor, who did some counseling with me, gave me an assignment. Now I need somebody to really listen to this because I don't know if you'll have this experience, but I need you to experience it through me if you never get it. She's seen me where I was before I could even get it out. She's seen me where I was. And you really need to have people around you who have no interest in what your talents are.
Right.
Have no interest in what your ability to adapt to whatever needs to be done is. Their concern is truly you as an individual. And that is Pastor Geneva. Not saying anything against anybody, But in that moment, on my way to falling, she seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me an assignment. And the assignment was to write him a letter. It took me 30 days to write this letter. 30. After the assignment was to write the letter, and after writing the letter, go to the gravesite. But the other part of my loss was there was no gravesite.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the biological, nor my dad. There was not a gravesite. And I had no place to go. It took me 30 days to write the letter. And after those, and I mean writing this letter every day. Not a different letter, same letter. It may take me 24 hours to write one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
After writing the letter, my heart hurt worse because I felt, how dare I have time to write this letter to him and get closure from him when he didn't even have the nerve or the audacity or the manhood to man up and be who he was put on the earth for. Although I was wrong in that too, because he served his purpose, and that was to get me here.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote my dad a letter as well. And then I called Romney and Heaven, because the part of the other assignment was I needed to read it to them. When you get to a person in the moment such as me, such as I was, I should say, what is your first thought to help them in their loss? And I'm asking that because me and you is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me and take me where I need to. But for the person that right now, they cannot look at you, they have to listen to you. What is the first thought? What is the first instruction
In dealing with the loss?
in dealing with the loss?
Um, what I will say is, in dealing with, especially like the loss of a loved one, our other sister, Sidria, told me a long time ago I lost somebody else close to me, and she called to check on me, and told me, "Don't you ever allow anyone to tell you how to grieve or tell you how long or how short it should be. You take
Wow.
whatever time that you need to grieve."
Mm.
And I'm so glad that she told me that, because I'm one that has to keep going, right? Like we got to keep going.
Right.
We keep going. But in doing that, you don't heal properly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, number one, take whatever time you need to grieve. Like there are so many different there are different stages of grief. But take whatever time you need to. Just don't get stuck in it. And we become a victim of grief because we've gotten so comfortable in it, and we never tried to work. And I think that's the main part. Work through it. It is a process, but it's something that you have to work through. You never get there and unpack and then stay there. Grief was never meant to be a place, a destination.
Right.
It's an emotion and a feeling that we have to literally work through. You cannot coast through it. You cannot float through it. You literally have to work, where you have to say, I'm making a conscious decision today that although it is rough, I have to keep going, understanding what has happened. And for me, I think saying, take whatever time, I did that, but I also took that as a crutch and was like, well, then I won't work through it. I understand that it happened, but I'm not going to work through it. So we just won't talk about it.
Right.
And no, like you got to be able to talk about it. You got to be able to work through it. You never want to get to a place where, and grief is a funny thing because it has its own set of rules, right?
Yeah.
So I've lost a couple of people that were close. One person in particular, like, was my right hand. God, He was literally like my right hand. Did any and everything that I ever handled my business when it came to singing and all kind. Like he was literally my right hand.
Yeah.
And he prepared us. He knew that he was passing and prepared us. And it still was not. It still was a hard thing.
Yeah.
And even for me to this day, some days are good, some days are not. There are days where I can talk about him and laugh and joke because he was a character and one of the greatest people ever in life.
Right.
Ever in life. And made everybody feel great and made them feel like they were the only person in the room. Like he was amazing. Taught me how to be a real friend. And then there are days where I can hear a song that will remind me of him and I just burst into tears.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think we feel like that's not okay.
That's the problem.
That's okay. That is okay. And I'm coming to terms with that. But I didn't want to believe it for a long time. So I just kept acting like he lived out of state again.
Mm.
Like, oh, I don't see him. He lives out of state. So it's just like before, like when he moved out of state before. Okay, well, that's just what it is. Until I go to pick up my phone and call. And then I realize you're not going to answer this phone.
Right. It's really weird. I looked at my phone. I'm still going through, doing my best to get through, the best I can, working through it, like you said. But it was just last year after that. Because it wasn't just the grandfathers and the dad and DNA donor that passed. There were several people that were passing. One of them being one of my best friends. And it wasn't until last year that I took her name out of my contact list. Because I would, scroll through. I'm like, I know this phone number is here. And I'd get to the P's and there she was. And then when I would switch phones, I would think it would be gone. And then your contacts just go with your phone.
Yep.
And now not just the contact go with the phone, but whatever the profile photo.
Yeah. Yes.
And it wasn't until, last year when we went to the, the riverbank, as we gonna call it, the riverbank. And
down by the riverside.
We had woo-wee. It's good I didn't wear makeup that day, okay? But it wasn't until after that I took her name out of my contacts. And it's funny because I felt guilty at first. That's why I hadn't taken it out.
Yeah.
Every birthday would happen and she was there. One of my kids' birthdays, she was there. I stopped looking at my kids' baby books because she was all through them. And it's like, the last time I remember thinking a couple of months ago, I'm getting myself ready. I said, I may not buy a house, but I want to be in one, more space. And I remember every time I moved, my dad helped me move. Till he couldn't help me move, and I haven't moved a lot, but when I did, until he couldn't, he was the one that helped me move. So it was like, I don't have nobody to. But I'm glad that I finally got to a place that, yes, I've experienced it, but I know that it's okay to go through the process of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the messed up part. Is again, as a nation, we believe that our process is the same for everybody, and it's not.
It is not.
I don't love who you love. Other words, our kids would all look alike, right? Like
I don't love who you love, and I don't love how you love.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Go ahead.
Ooh, that's the other thing. I don't love how you love.
At all.
And I think that's another thing that people forget is just because you like say it's a group of us, right? We have a friend that passes away. We are all grieving.
Right.
But we love differently and we have a different relationship. So how you grieve is not going to be how I grieve because our relationships with the person was different.
Right. You said it right. You said it right. Uh, so I'm a believer the same way that and I've done it. I also prayed about it, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why Pastor Geneva was able to just walk up and
Yeah.
meet me. Like God surround me with the people that need to be around me for this walk, and also during this season, because in this season of transition for me, and I'm still learning, of course, but the
Mm-hmm.
season of transition wasn't just short season. It wasn't like, okay,
Right. Hello.
March, April, and May is spring. It hasn't been that way. It's been this transition has been a couple of years, and
Mm.
I needed to have certain people to, no, I don't walk like you walk, but you pick up the phone and just be like, you know what? I remember I did such and such and such stuff. And that story that you told me is like, I needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a believer that you have to surround yourself with certain people.
Absolutely. And
Or
if you don't know, like, and what you did was an important part, because we say that we want to surround ourselves with certain people, but we don't pray about it, and we don't ask God to send them.
right.
Uh, and so pray about it. Hello.
Oh,
Uh,
hello.
and ask God to send you them. But when He sends them, don't run them off because you're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you prayed for.
Right. But
Don't run them off
I'm gonna tell
because
you the funny thing though. I wasn't ready. She just wouldn't go nowhere. And that's probably why I had to pray for her. Because God knew. This stubborn little mule right here, this one right here, this stubborn one.
Stubborn. Oh, she's stubborn.
And let me clean it up. Okay. I'm not just stubborn just because. There's a reason behind my stuff.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna move for a certain reason. Like, you've been acting a fool. I won't be around you, and you're not gonna. Now, ain't nobody gonna convince me to act. No, enough is enough. Okay. This case, I'm hurting. I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how to feel right now, and I don't like what everybody else has tried to make me do. I'm not moving.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna stay right here until I know. And it's funny because I'm thinking, God, He's gonna dry my tears, and I'm gonna feel better immediately when He's ready. Dummy, you got to process. And I'm
Yep.
calling myself the dummy. So if y'all took that to offense, as I said on the last few episodes, I didn't say this when I first started to love chat. If you don't like it, exit the room. You don't have to listen to this. Hit the you listening on YouTube? X.
Oh God.
Hey, we got to put it out there. So, but
We being real.
that's fine. I'm not. No, not gonna do it. And that's because I prayed for it.
Yeah.
Had I not prayed about it before, she probably would have left.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. I don't know. Pastor Geneva might not. But I was like, But you also have to have a determination.
Yes. That's the thing. Like you have to. It's a want.
Mm-hmm.
You have to want to not want to be there. You have to want to move from that position.
Yes. And I had a burning. It was a want, but my want turned into more than just a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
It was just burning inside of me. I remember waking up when my DNA donor, and I know I'm probably making somebody mad by me saying this. Let me explain what DNA donor is, in case you're not clear. DNA donor had one purpose: to help you get into this earth, to fertilize the egg that your mother carried in her womb. Period. Ain't done nothing else. Did I make that clear?
Crystal.
So my DNA donor, he went through because he was here in California, of course, because that's how I got here. Um, and then when he got ill, he went back to his hometown, and they called me and told me, in their words, your father is ill, and this is what's happening. I was like, oh no, Willie is ill, because my daddy is sitting right there. Okay. And me and my dad, we used to bump heads all the time, probably because we was too much alike and born on the same day. But I don't care how much we bumped heads. Willie was not my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
So the day he died, I had told them to stop calling me while he was sick. Don't call me about him being sick. What I didn't know is right then I had already felt moments of loss.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I was already in that moment and not knowing that I was covering up with the anger of he ain't been here anyway.
Right.
I said, call me when he's gone and let me know what I need to do then. Other than that, we don't have nothing to talk
about. Mm-hmm.
Because I ain't been around this person. And in fact, I haven't heard any good things about this person.
Yeah, so how are you supposed to feel?
Right. So he dies, and I think I'm good. And I remember crying a little bit because at this point now, now I can't get anything else answered. That was the other thing. They wanted me to talk to him. Well, you just told me he was senile, so how are you going to answer any questions that I got?
That's what I was going to ask too. Like, were you mourning the loss of him, or were you mourning the fact that I can no longer have access to things I might want to ask or might want to know?
I think it was that first, or so I believed.
Mm-hmm.
And then less than 24 hours is the next morning. Sun ain't even came up yet. And I wake up and I have a complete breakdown. And the only thing I could think to do is to call my mom. Like, literally, it's still dark outside.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up the phone, I call her, and I can't talk because I can't stop crying. And she starts praying. But while she's praying, I hear my dad in the background asking, is that Creisha?
Mm.
Like I can hear him like right now. I could hear it. But that for some I still don't get it. I'm gonna let the counselor maybe get it. I still don't understand that. And it's not that I'm trying to psychoanalyze anybody or anyone, but I want you to see the experience. Like, to this moment, I don't understand why I had such a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think of is that I was fighting the process.
Mm-hmm. Because we think that the process is supposed to look a certain way.
Right. Or feel a certain way.
Uh-huh. And that's not, listen, again, grief is a funny thing where it has complete control of your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are moments you feel like you're over something and you're not.
Mm-mm-mm. Or, in my case, you don't think you're going to feel nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the surprising part for me. It was like, oh my God, stop crying. Get it together. And I couldn't.
Right.
Which made me feel, I think that made me feel worse.
And then we know how we operate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that we are very strong people. We can get through pretty much everything. Even if I have a breakdown, it doesn't last long. Like, we keep moving. Well, listen, you didn't keep moving, and it wasn't a quick little situation because it was pulling in an area that was never exercised ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just a perfect example of, like, we're in a pandemic now. So we're pulling from areas in our lives that we've never had to pull from before, because we're experiencing something we've never experienced before.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like, yeah, you can experience loss, but have you experienced loss from somebody that was never there?
Right.
Like that's different. So it's so like for me, losing a friend, that was hard. I lost a couple of friends. That was hard. The hardest thing for me though was was losing, because we're talking about how there's life after loss. Well, I wanted to know how there was life after the loss of time that I gave up.
Yeah.
I gave up so much time
Yeah.
trying to please everybody else and not really understanding and focusing on who I am, what my purpose is, who God called me to be. I lost so much time.
Yeah.
And then I got angry because I felt like, well, God, I help other people build their dreams
Mm-hmm.
just to lose out on the time for me. Like
Mm.
it was a rough, like I and that season, like you said, wasn't a few months. That was years. That
Mm-hmm.
was years
Mm-hmm.
that I went through the process of that. And I had to go through all the stages, and I was angry and I was depressed. And like that depression thing got a hold of me tough, where I wouldn't even get out of bed some days.
Mm. Yeah.
And people wouldn't know, because I'm very good at being private. You'll see what I want you to see, you'll know what I want you to know.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that didn't see that I wouldn't get out the bed. My best friends would know something was wrong when they didn't hear from me, and they would call my phone and I would never answer. But I was
Mm-hmm.
Houdini, because I had different places I could go and hide, and no one would ever know.
Right. Mm.
Um, I remember, like there. So I was in a really really bad car accident. Um, in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Really bad car accident. Now, mind you, I want to keep in mind, I've been working in ministry pretty much my entire life.
Right.
Um, so I remember I got into a really bad car accident in 2016. It was a really, really, really rough year. It was just a really rough year already. Um, the day I get into a car accident, um, somebody decided to make a fake profile on Facebook about me.
Oh.
And we being uncut and raw and unfiltered, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so so I was, again, working in ministry, because you get, like I said earlier, we get so used to being on autopilot and just doing the stuff that we forget. We doing the
Right.
work of the Lord that we actually forget. And that was me. I got so busy doing the routine stuff that I actually was not doing it to glorify God. It was just, this is what I did. This was normal. This is life. And so I was living any kind of way. And so I we being truthful.
Mm-hmm. Make it
I
plain.
The person made a fake profile and used naked pictures of me,
Oh.
because I was out living whatever kind of way and thought that I was untouchable. Guess what? You got touched.
Mm-hmm.
And made a fake profile and put them up there. That same day that all that was going on, and I just thought my world was over. Like, oh no, no. That happened. Same day that happens, that night, I get into a car accident. And I was stressed out that day already. That happens. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with one of my friends. I go out, go to a bar. I had a drink. I was driving home with my friend in the car, and I fell asleep driving.
Mm.
Flew off the freeway and flipped my car. I don't know how many times it flipped. I know when I woke up, I was upside down in the car.
Mm-mm-mm.
Um, so I've said it. I said it times before that I was in a car accident. But let's be real. So these are all the events of this day, and this is everything that happened in this day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I go to the hospital. I'm in the hospital for a while. I get out the hospital and I get home, and just because I had reported stuff on Facebook, that was taken down, but now it's on Instagram.
Oh God.
Now there are comments left under all of my pictures, calling me all out my name, calling my family all out of their name, all kind of stuff. Um, I have my arm is in a sling. I can barely walk. It was just, it was not, it was, I was tore up. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed crying, and no one even knew. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed crying, and I remember asking God, why didn't you just let me die?
Wow.
Why? Why didn't you just let me die? Like, I'm going through all of this, and I understand, what I've done to create the problems that I had too at the time. So I'm not saying let me die because, oh, it's not fair. No, no, no. I understand what I did. Oh, I'm fully aware of what I did. But I felt so embarrassed. I felt I've tricked so many people and not being truthful and honest. And here I am. Why didn't you just let me die when I flew off the freeway and flipped my car? It would have been easy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I should have died looking at that car. Should have died. And I didn't. And the guilt that followed after that crippled me with depression too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got lost and stuck in all of that mess instead of, he left you here for a purpose, Romney.
Right.
He knew what you was going to do. The Bible says before you were born, before you were formed in the belly of your mother, he knew he knew the plans for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think he knew the plans and still gave you a certain measure of grace to get out of that.
Right.
But I could not forgive myself, and that's why I couldn't move on, because I couldn't forgive me.
Yeah.
And so I felt I lost that on so much time, because I felt at this point, well, what right do I have to sing? What right do I have to get up and tell anybody about God? What right do I have to do anything when I was fronting and faking for a long time?
Yeah.
And I used to be like, well, God will show me things, and I'll be like, I can't go tell them that. Or I can't pray for that person, because look what I've done. Like, I'm not perfect. I used to always use that one. I'm not perfect. I know how I'm living, and I know what I'm struggling with, and I know where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And God told me, Romney, you will always be flawed and you will always struggle.
Yeah.
But it's not your job to worry about that. You do what I tell you to do, and in doing that, I'll make you perfect.
Right.
And I was like, whoa. And he was like, I could have taken you out. You're absolutely right. I could have. But I was intentional about keeping you here.
Intentional.
And so and I say this all the time, because God was intentional about keeping me around and keeping me here, when that would have been I should have died. Literally, I should have died. But because he was intentional about keeping me, I have to be intentional about what I do, what I say, where I go, who I hang out with, who I pour into, who pours into me. Like, I just have to be intentional, because I'm on borrowed time. My time was up long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever want to be the reason that someone falls because I was not truthful and I was not honest.
Mm-mm-mm. So many things you touched on, but it all goes back to one thing. I'm about to be, I'm trying not to be churchy, indeed. But I don't think, now this is for somebody who's experienced it, and this is for somebody who's petty that does it. Another form of loss is when you in your mess, or when you're being transparent to who you are with your flaws,
mm-hmm.
that people throw your flaws in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So I've experienced this twice, but recently I experienced it. It was the person tried to tell me what I do and don't do, and who I'm supposedly am by what they've seen on social media. And let me put it out here like this: social media is an office. If you use it as your lifestyle, that's your business.
That's your business.
But you don't know half of me by looking at social media. It goes
Come
right
on.
back to what you said. I let you see what I want you to see.
Oh. You'll only see what I want to show you. What you don't know and this is what I use all the time, even with my own clients talking about stuff. You see the picture, right? But you don't see the 50 pictures that didn't get posted before this one did.
Right.
You don't see the process that happened before this.
Right.
So you're judging me off of this when that's not even, you have not even scratched the surface.
And this is the killer part, though, for those of us that are very spiritual, and for those of us that are not, that just have a belief in a higher power. The enemy will use whatever he can to distract you. And it's a distraction. So the person told me, you're supposed to be X, Y, and Z. Now, I had that happen to me before, but it was because I got upset about something. And this is the bad part, I got upset and didn't say nothing. I just looked at them like they was crazy. And they told me I was supposed to be saved. Okay, yeah, I am. But I'm going to need you to go listen to Jamal Bryant when he told you can still catch them hands. Okay? I might not fight you, but I'm still human, is what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So the enemy likes to use things against us to make us feel guilt and make us come back 3, 5, 6 steps backwards in the process. So you're telling me, you're supposed to be doing this, and I see you doing that, and then you did this, and you did you. Well, what about you? That's what saved me this time. And I wasn't pointing the finger, but I knew what this person had hidden. The old me wanted to say, aren't you the same person that got XYZ and ABC going on that you don't want nobody to know? But because of growth, maturity, and because of what you were trying to throw in my face, because I am saved, I didn't throw your bones at you.
Listen, I would have turned it around. I don't have to worry about your bones that still might have meat on them. What I'm concerned about is you could throw all those things that I was. You could throw all of those things back in my face, and I'm going to tell you, it's only by the grace of God. Because had it not been for the grace of God, you wouldn't be able to stand here and talk to me at all, because I should have been taken out of here. So the fact that I was able to do all this that you said I did, live all this that you said I lived, talk all this that you said I talked, and I'm still here. And I'm still thriving, and I'm still flourishing. It's not me, it's the grace of God.
Period.
So thank you. Again,
thank you for
I want everything that I want to do, everything that I do, I want it to point back to God. So thank you.
You're right, because it's another reminder.
Right. That's what that was.
It's a reminder of the process. Because let's be honest, if you had said that to me last year, I would have been like, oh my God, what have I done? No, you took something that I said, turned it into something else, or turned it into what you thought it was. Didn't even matter if you turned it or not. You made an assumption by a post or 2 or 3. Do you know what hell I may have had to go through to put up this post that says God is good?
Right.
This is part of my process. This is part of what it looks like, what life looks like after loss. Because the truth of the matter, I hope somebody is free from this. Most of the time when there's loss, that person that 2-3 years later that says that wasn't there when there was the loss.
Right.
So how much value does their mouth have?
Listen, and this is the important thing I want people to understand. Listen to this. We've talked about experiencing loss. We've talked about what we've lost. But now understand that there is a life. There is absolutely life after
life. Yeah.
When all of that happened to me, I thought it was a dead end. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't really care too much for my job because they were acting crazy. Like it was just it was a transition period. Hated it, and I knew it was my time to go up at the job. But because I'm comfortable and I was good at it, I don't want to leave.
Look, I did that.
Right. And so all of that, and in that moment, it looked like it was a dead end. So yes, God, why didn't you just take me? Now, I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. and I'm one of the counselors that actually deals with a lot of mental health as well, which is the field of work that I eventually want to go into. I eventually want to be a licensed marriage and family therapist. Um, Dealing with mental health, being able to deal with substance abuse is amazing. Like, I love what I'm doing. I understand that it's not just a profession, but a part of ministry for me. Um, I've been able to help so many people just because of what I've experienced and what I've been through and learned from it.
Yeah.
And so life for me is amazing, even with a pandemic and even with the racial injustice that we've seen. Listen, I have not missed a day of work due to a pandemic.
Thank you, God.
I continue to have a job. I continue to make money. I continue to thrive. I continue to be healthy. Like, God has been amazing and has been faithful. But had I given up back then, I would not see it now.
Yeah.
And listen, my favorite scripture in the entire world, because I feel like I've been hit with a lot of stuff. And one scripture that I literally lean on to get me through things is Romans 8:18. And it says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us." I lean on that thing because I trust God and He's never failed me. And anytime I got into a situation where I didn't see a way out, He always came through.
Yeah.
And it's not just coming through, but it's the peace that I get. God. Like, yo, when you lose, like, the loss, no matter what the loss is, a person, time, yourself, any of that, when you lose something, there's peace that leaves with that.
Yeah.
But I have an assurance in God, man. Yo, that thing, no matter what happens in life, I know God always has me. Always has. And so that's how I make it through. And that's how I know there is absolutely life, thriving life after loss.
Thriving life.
Your responsibility. It is your responsibility to do the work. We listen, I say it all the time. We treat God like He is a genie a lot of times.
Yeah.
To where we say we want something, we feel like we can rub the lamp, which is prayer, ask for it, and then it be granted, and there is no work on our side that has to be done.
Right.
God is absolutely practical. Yes, fasting and praying does come along with these things. The Bible says that. But you can't just do that and think everything is going to work out when you've done nothing practical that He has put here in place for you to do.
Right.
So it's your responsibility to fight through whatever the loss is. And discover what that life is on the other side, because it's there. It is absolutely there. Like, I literally sit and think a lot of times how I sat on the edge of that bed in pain, crying, asking God, why didn't He just kill me? Why didn't you just let me die? And now I go back like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't. Ooh,
right.
I'm glad you didn't. I was in mess. I am so glad you didn't. Because I've grown so much and I've been able to help other people, and I've allowed other people to help me. And I am so grateful, man. I am so grateful.
Wow. Well, I'm going to say this.
Oh, Lord.
I'm grateful too. I heard you say, oh, Lord, so I brought it back.
Listen, I just like, and that's why I always say, like, I laugh and joke and say I'm a lay member. The reason why I say that is because people get titles and then they forget the title and then just stand in the title. I don't ever want to stand in the title. I don't ever want to be known as a title. I want to be known as Romney that did this. I want my legacy to be the action that I actually did. Not the title that I had, not the position that I held, but literally the work that I did that helped people. Because what good is a title if I did no work that helped or encouraged anybody.
Right. Mm-mm-mm. Well, check this out.
Checking.
You got your checklist?
Checking.
First of all, I just want to, brush off my shoulders because I made it through an hour with you without crying with such a touchy subject.
It was a touchy subject, and it was so much more that we could have got into.
And we probably will have to, do a part 2 to this because such a touchy subject.
It is a touchy subject.
But as we come to the close of this, if there's something you could do, because we wow, like I think we did a little surgery.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something you could say to someone right now that would help them just to get to the door of the process, to get to life after loss, what would it be?
Again, I'm a lay member, not to be deep.
Mercy,
but
Jesus.
I would remind them of the scripture. And the reason why I go to scripture is because, listen, God said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will remain.
Right.
And so as long as the word remains and the word is living, it's breathing, it's active, that means it's got to come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would leave, if you're in that place and you're at the door or you're trying to get to the door, I'm going to tell you Romans 8:18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time, whatever that is for you, whatever it looks like for you in this present time, they're not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Listen, what God has for you is so much bigger than where you are right now. Like whatever that situation is, whatever that circumstance is, whatever that heartbreak is, or that turmoil, or that not having peace, whatever that is right there, you got to keep going and knowing that God is going to bring you through it. And on the other side is so much more greater than what you just dealt with.
Yeah.
It's so much greater, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
It is, and that's not just worth it. You're worth it.
You're
worth so much that God would make a way for you because you are that worthy.
Yeah.
Like you're worth it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what anybody around you is saying. And I know it gets hard, but you got to be able to pray, God, remove the people that don't need to be here in the season and add the people that should.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, like I'm telling you, the sufferings right now are not, they're not worthy, even with a pandemic.
Mm-mm.
As great as this is, we've never seen this. As great as this is, the glory of God is still greater than that.
Right.
So you got to get through it because on the other side is victory.
Yeah.
Like this, and the song, "There Will Be Glory After This." Listen, absolutely, and I can't wait. I'm already feeling good. So listen, remember that wherever you're at, it's nothing compared to what God has for you on the other side.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. I'm done preaching.
I hope somebody heard that he said he was done preaching. So I'm just going to leave that right there and be petty about it. But
lay member.
This has been another episode of the Love Chat, uncut, unedited, unfiltered, about how there's life after loss with none other than Romney Sears. Romney, tell everybody where they can find you on the social media where they think they're gonna, make up stories for you.
Listen,
I was petty, wasn't I?
You understand? Make up whatever. I done heard it all by this point. You can find me on Facebook under Romney Jerron Sears, and you can find me on Instagram under Prince Jerron. Again, that is Romney Jerron Sears on Facebook and Prince Jerron on Instagram. Thank you, Cree, for having me. I love this. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Whoa. I said I didn't cry.
Here we go.
I love you to life and back. around the moon. You are my brother for life. And you know,
Absolutely.
if we were still kids, our mothers would be whooping us if we got in trouble, because that's the kind of
You
family
need
we
to.
are.
Right. Right.
Well, Tribe, it's been a great one. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you, Romney, for being here. If you have
Thank you for
questions,
having me.
concerns, or anything, drop us a comment, drop me a DM. We'll get back to you. All right, Tribe.
Bye.
Bye.